Hey neighbors, Kevin here with etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install CURT's T-connector vehicle wire harness here on our 2022 Acura TLX. So if you're like our neighbor today and you already have your hitch installed or you're looking at getting one installed, along with that I highly recommend picking up a vehicle wiring harness, so that way if you do plan on towing a trailer, you can easily hook up your lights and have those lights transfer from your vehicle back to that trailer so you can remain street legal. Or in a lot of other cases, if you have a cargo carrier or bike rack that also has lights on it, which typically is going to be the case whenever you have a real small car just like this, where your bikes or your cargo on that carrier could potentially block your rear tail lights. So this would allow you to easily hook up some lights so that others can see exactly when you're stopping, or if you have your turn signals going on, so that everyone around you knows what's going on and everyone can get home safe. As far as installation goes, with this ModuLite wire harness being a connector style that's just going to plug right into your taillight wiring, and with the ease of being able to just pull out the liner here and then get straight access to your taillights, this honestly is something you could easily do at home within a few minutes. The only tools you really need is a trim panel tool, so that way you can pop some things out without accidentally marring up any of your paint. The other items that you're going to need are an 8mm socket wrench as well as a 10mm, so that you can pop off the couple of nuts that you're going to have to take off to get this in place. Now, if you don't have those tools or you just don't have the time to do this and just don't want to, you can use our dealer locator to look up a shop in your zip code and get your wiring harness installed. Now, this wire harness is going to live inside of the vehicle, and then anytime that you need to use it, you'll have to lift it up out from under your floor mat in there and pull it out, and then you can shut your door down on it. You don't need to worry about that damaging the wiring, just because there are two gaskets right here that'll kind of be able to compress enough for this to slip through without damaging it. Now we'll open it up, just give you a quick run through. So if I lift up my liner right here and then the floor itself, this just drops right down in there where our flat tire fix kit is going to live. So anytime you don't need it, you can just throw it right in, close it up, be good to go. If we do need it, you'll have to bring it out. And it's not quite long enough to fully reach down and clamp onto our safety chain loops with the cap. So this will be something where you have to have it sit out above it. Now normally it is sitting a little bit lower with most vehicles, so that way you can easily hook up to your trailer harness. So you might need to look into an extension or just really work with your wire harness on the trailer to make sure that there's going to be enough length here, so that way when you make a turn you have enough so that it's not going to get bound up. With all that being said, why don't we go ahead and show you exactly how we got this installed. Starting off our install, we're going to be at the back of the vehicle. We're going to open up our hatch and we will pull up our full floor coverings. Once we get those up out of the way, we are going to pick up our flat fix kit and just pull that right on out, so that way we can get down to the battery. We're going to be disconnecting the negative side of our battery here, and that's just going to be a 10mm socket. Now typically once you get that loose enough, you can just pop that off. Still a little bit to go. And then once we have that away, we want to make sure that we are keeping it fully tucked out of there. That's just an extra safety precaution so you don't fry anything while we're installing. Next, we're going to pull out our threshold. They tell you to use a trim panel tool. Honestly, this is super open, so it's pretty easy. Just grab from one side and from the other. And you're just going to be lifting straight up. Once you have it up, we can pull it right out of the way. You can see all of our clips are just right here in the center. Now we're going to be removing the felt liner that's right here so that we can get access to the tail light assembly. And to do so, we are going to be using a trim panel removal tool so that we can pop out this little plug right here. There we go, and that's just a little Christmas tree plastic one. And we'll set that aside. Then we can pull back the liner, which you might have to get a little bit creative, just kind of pulling it out of the gasket here. There we go. Just past that liner, we're going to have two 8mm nuts that we're going to have to pull off, so that way we can pop out our tail light. And we'll set those aside as well. And then with the taillight, we're going to be pulling that straight back towards the rear of the vehicle. So if you wiggle this a little bit, you can kind of get it loose, and then you can stick in a 90-degree pry tool and get behind there and kind of help push it out. But like I said, you're going to be coming straight back. There is a little push-in post that's right about this area, and that's what's holding us up here. Kind of wiggling it back and forth. It seems to be the right way to get this out. Although they don't give you much to really grab onto. Alright, and then once we have that removed, we're going to be disconnecting our wire harness. So if you press up on this right here, we can disconnect it and set that aside. Next, we're just going to pull this grommet out because all of our wiring is going to pass through here. So you can just pull it back a bit, leave yourself a little bit of room, and then we're going to repeat this over on our passenger side. Now we're going to cut a hole in the grommet, being careful not to hit our factory wiring. And that's going to allow us to pass through our new connectors for our harness. And I'm just going to cut this almost like a cross shape right through here, so that way I can easily get those connectors through. And then once we're done, we'll come back with some RTV sealant and just cover that up. Now with that slit, we're going to pass through our connectors. Might be a bit of a challenge if you didn't cut enough out there. Might even trim a bit more. Yeah, I think I'm going to trim a little bit more out of here just so we can make sure we can get that in there easier. Now once we have our new harness through, we're going to connect that up. So the larger of the two is going to go to our factory wiring. And then the other one is going to go to our tail light. And while we have that, I'm going to push this down, kind of hide that in there as best I can. That way, or hopefully not fighting against it once we put our tail light back in. And once you have that in, you can also pop your grommet back in. I'm going to test fit the tail light, make sure that that actually can sit. So I might push that up there more. All right. So when you're doing this, make sure that you have that kind of tucked up a little bit higher. There is enough space in this cavity just for it to sit right there. All right, and now we'll run our green wire over as well. I might snake it through a little bit better with our fabric here, just because I want to have a nice, clean, hidden look. There we go. And then the same thing over here, we'll cut our grommet. Now we can come back with that RTV sealant, just kind of glob it in there, help protect our wires. and cover up any of that cut area of our grommet. We can let that dry for a few minutes. Using the double-sided tape included in the kit, I'm going to place that on the back of our module. And then just so that we have enough length to make it to both our positive and negative battery terminals, I'm going to put this right in the center. I've already checked it with that plastic threshold piece. It's going to sit here. There's plenty of space, so I don't need to worry about that interfering. So I'm going to peel that back off. I'm going to put about halfway up and give it a good press. Get that tape to activate. Now I'm going to disconnect that negative battery post terminal so that I can add on our ground to that. Just take that nut off, pop on our wire, and then the nut can go right back on. Then I'm going to tuck that back down so it's not connected. And over on our positive terminal, I'm going to do the same thing. Looks like the ones that are not being used are probably going to be too far away. And we might be able to make it to that guy. So I think we'll pull that one. Slide on our positive cable. And tighten it back down. Now I'm also going to double check, make sure that our cable here isn't going to be in the way. We might need to splice on a little bit extra just in case that's going to interfere with the styrofoam that we're going to be placing back in here. Alright, now that we've double checked, I've got no clearance issues, we're good to go. I'm going to pop this back out and we can finish cleaning this all up. If you want to take some zip ties and just wind up any excess wire that you have, so like this right here, you can see our double-sided tape already came off. I might just shoot a self-tapper in. I'm going to go real short with that though, just to make sure that this is being held up. And if anything, I might even go just a bit lower because there is a divot in that foam, so it might not even touch that right there. So I'm going to pull that back off before our tape fully sets. We weren't making enough contact here. We'll slide that down there. And I'll probably still have to kind of place it at an odd angle. There we go. All right, now I'm going to double check again with our styrofoam, make sure we're all good. And then once that's done, all this excess, I'm just going to zip tie up so we can just take it just kind of like that, zip tie it, and then secure it away. All right, through trial and error, I've moved this around a few times. This is the only location I'm really getting it to sit without it catching our wire or catching the styrofoam for our flat fix kit. So this is going to be the winner here, and I'm going to secure it with one of the self-tapping screws that was included in the kit. Be very careful while you're doing this. It's super easy to accidentally go too hard and bust that little plastic clip right there that it ties into. Secured in place with that screw. Double-sided tape's not the best, so it's not really going to be able to go anywhere. I will tighten it just slightly more. You really don't want this moving around. If this is banging around in here, then you can end up having issues with it later on down the road. But with all that said, now I'm going to secure my wire. With our wiring now secured, I am going to reinstall our negative battery cable. And then tighten it back down. Once secured, we can also pop back on our cover over our positive terminal. And then, now the 4-pole is just going to hang out, so what you can do is kind of set that off to the side, get your styrofoam flat fix kit back in place, and then when it comes to putting down our cover here, you just have it kind of hang out over it after you lay it down. But with all that said, we can reinstall our taillights. Now the final thing is going to be to check our light functions. So right now we have our running lights on, we have our brake lights, left turn, and our right turn. Now that we know each of our light functions is properly showing through on our 4-pole, that'll do it for the installation of CURT's custom T-connector vehicle wire harness here on our 2022 Acura TLX. My name's Kevin, and if this video wasn't enough help for you, or you're still trying to figure out the right wiring kit for your TLX, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.